Good afternoon, everybody out there in Viewerland, and welcome to the Rundown, the Thirsty Thursday edition of the Rundown, the Veterans Day Thirsty Thursday edition of the Rundown. My name is Mike Poworski, and I am here to host the program for you today. I just don't do this program by myself.
No, you do not, sir. My name is Craig DeLuz, and I'm coming at you from the left coast behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras in California. Once again, on this Veterans Day, and Mikey, let me just start by saying thank you for your service.
Well, thank you, Craig. My normal response is I like the work, but thank you for thanking me for my service. And now I'm going to take off this hat because I am not a hat guy, and hats are not something that works well with the TV here. So it is my one of my favorite veteran hats. It's my Kabul Surf Club from my cavalry unit in Afghanistan, and then of course the politically incorrect back that says Haji don't serve. So,
well, now you say you're not a hat guy, but I've seen you in your cavalry hat with your dress uniform. You look pretty snazzy.
Yeah, that goes with that's the whole ensemble, though.
Right.
That's that doesn't work for me. I'm just not a regular everyday hat guy. I don't like them. Military hats are one thing. You got to wear your ball cap and you go, and it matches the uniform. That's something else. I've just never been a hat dude, which is harsh because I am a very big sports fan of certain sports, and I've got plenty of hats and would love to wear them. I just not a hat guy. I don't know. So,
not a hat guy.
My hair's all messed up though. So I fixed my hair. There we go. All right, there we go. Good to go.
There you go. Any special plans today?
Let's see if we can get this wig back on straight. Let's see. There we go. All right. Let's see. Any special plans for today? It's a regular work day. It is the start of the weekend yesterday, so we'll have a little more fun doing it today. I'll say thank you for your service a few more times than normal, but other than that, no real special plans going. I think most of the festivities for Veterans Day are occurring over the weekend, and I will probably go over to the Warbird Air Museum over there and say hi to some veterans and maybe go to the barbecue over there and then watch some fireworks on Saturday night at the VFW. So that's probably where I'll be spending my Veterans weekend.
Nice. Well, folks, make sure, the important thing about in particular day is this is the day, and you know how people always confuse Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and people forget that Memorial Day is about memorializing and honoring those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. But this is the day in particular to thank those who have given of their time and their talent and were willing to risk the ultimate sacrifice. So now's the time. This is that day. This is that day where you make sure reach out to folks individuals that and let them know that you appreciate all that they have put on the line.
Start today with thank you for your service and never stop telling them that.
Yes,
you tell them that every time. First time you see a veteran 3 months from now, thank them for his service. Just thank them for their service. That's all.
Well, it's funny you say that because for example, that's the sort of thing that's how I think about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is just a reminder to be thankful. Valentine's Day is just a reminder to let your significant other, your spouse, know that you appreciate them, right? Christmas is just a reminder to be giving. You know what I mean? It's just like those are just reminders. That's stuff we're supposed to be doing all the time. And same thing in this case.
Exactly right. Yeah, it doesn't need to be Veterans Day to thank a veteran for their service. So, just start today and never stop. I'll say that, And I'm not saying every day you see them, you have to say thank you for your service. I'm saying, let's say you know a guy who's a veteran, you haven't seen him for 3 months. Well, you should thank him for their service. That's when you see them 3 months from now. So
exactly. Or, if there's someone that you meet and they, you're talking and they let you know that they served you, once again, thank them for their service.
Exactly right. And I'll give you a second one beyond that. If you find out they're a Vietnam veteran, welcome them home as well, because odds are they may have never been welcomed home before.
That is kind of sad. That is really, really sad, but true.
Yeah. So let's move on, Craig. And in fact, we'll just stay here on Split, and you can take it from here because I know CRT and the mainstream media, this is one of your favorite topics. So I'm going to let you
do know. Well, I don't know that I would call it one of my favorites, but you do know that it's something that I've taken a pretty deep dive into as of late. And it's very, very frustrating because we all watch the mainstream media, right? And we all hear them talk about critical race theory. And when they talk about it, they almost always invariably lie about it. They say, well, we're not teaching critical race theory in schools, and it's teaching history, and it's just diversity training. Why don't people want diversity training? Well, there was a study that was recently done, and in this particular study, they pretty much discovered that when you look at mainstream media coverage, that they flat out ignored many of the bedrock assumptions of critical race theory. And this was a study that was done by the American Enterprise Institute. And they, like I said, they covered and they analyzed the treatment of critical race theory in 91 articles across seven different publications. And what they found was that, well, things like at the heart of it, which was basically that, first of all, it is an activist theory, right? It's not about just teaching history. First of all, it's about fundamentally changing what history is and teaching it from a perspective where everything is race. They completely and utterly ignore that in critical race theory, everything is about race. Everything is divided by race. Everything is guided by race. Every decision is made focused on race. That's one thing. The fact that it is an activist thing, that the whole goal of it is to change behavior, right? It's not just about teaching history, but it's about getting people to do things and change things and a change in public policy. Those are just two of the things, Mike, that that most media fundamentally ignore about critical race theory. And, oh, by the way, it is vague and broad enough, and the fact that it's always being redefined is how people get away with saying, oh, well, they're not teaching critical race theory in schools. But that's like saying that, well, I'm not teaching, cooking in schools, right?
Right.
But I'm telling people how to make quiche.
Yeah. We're not going to cook, but here's the recipe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You just hit the nail right on the head. There you go. I like that. You took my analogy and you made it even better. Is that cultural appropriation, though, by the way, since you used my analogy?
Well, I really think we should talk about you using quiche as the example. I'm having a problem with that. I think
why? Because I hate quiche. That's why.
That's the California in you. It's the oh, I need a food in California. Quiche. What? You couldn't go with street tacos. You couldn't go with something else.
Street tacos.
Couldn't pick something a little more Spanish over there in California. So, went with quiche. Although that'll go good with our little story later on about Kamala. So
there you go. There you go. So what are your thoughts on this idea, on this issue?
On the critical race theory?
Critical race theory in mainstream media.
Oh, the mainstream. Well, listen, they continue to lie. And I think it's not just the lying about the critical race theory. It's lying in general, right? There's no one to hold them accountable for this. I really think, and I said this during the last administration because they went so far that when they start spreading known falsehoods, not true, that because of their influence over people's lives and what they believe, that we should be looking at charging them with treason or sedition when it comes to making comments about the government and government operations. There's really no other way to stop them. We're independent. We have First Amendment. Yeah, you have the ability to get up and speak whatever truths you want, but when you start spreading lies that affect the economy, that affect society in general, then there must be consequences for that.
Right. And the thing is that they are being taught now in journalism schools, because, by the way, Marxist theory and Marxism is pretty much running most of our major universities, in particular the Ivy League universities. They're being taught that, you're supposed to be an activist. You're supposed to push an agenda, and they've got an agenda. And critical race theory is part of that agenda. And even though critical race theory is not Marxism, its foundation is in Marxist ideology and theory. No one can deny that, and they will never mention that. They will never talk about that. That's another one of the fundamental things that they absolutely positively will not talk about, and you won't see in mainstream media.
Right. Yeah.
And by the way, lying is, all you have to do is read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Lying is completely and wholly and utterly acceptable in their eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
The
they want
ends
you to,
justify the means.
right. They want you to bend to their point of view. And if it includes lies, then that's all right. Because
That'd
like you
be
just
aight
said,
with them.
the ends justify the means. So, Craig, we talked about Citigroup. We talked about Citigroup. I think we talked about Citigroup, Capital One, and Bank of America, if I recall. I think those were the group of them that we spoke of a few weeks ago in Texas. Well,
Yes.
there's an update from Citigroup.
Yes. Oh, let me go. Yeah. So in Texas, they have decided, Texas is too big of a state for them to ignore, for them to not do business with. So Citigroup has decided that, maybe that whole being anti-gun thing and not doing business or not allowing people to do transactions with dealing with firearms or firearms retailers. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. We're going to allow them to do business because we want to do business with the state of Texas. So anyway, it just goes to show that, holding them accountable, holding their feet to the fire does work. And we need to make sure that we're doing it in more instances and in more cases. Whatever state, if you are in a state that is a pro-gun state, you need to be talking to your statewide financial officials and encouraging them to stand up to these banks.
Yeah, this was pretty good because right after these came out, Citigroup said, "Oh well, we still want to do business with the state of Texas, and we don't do any of that stuff." And Texas basically went back through very nicely and said, "Yeah, you do. Here's your policies right here, and you do this. And by the way, and here's Johnny from the gun store who you denied." And they went, big gulp. We got caught. They didn't even. I don't think the people up there, certain people at Citigroup headquarters, even knew that it was going on. So they did their own little internal flush, and basically now the second time around have come back to Texas and go, "Okay, we still want to work with you, and this time we really mean it when we say we're not interfering with gun businesses." So that was fun to see.
I wish it were possible to actually make it. I mean, to me, what frustrates me is this. It's not just that they're developing a policy that goes against, that has no correlation to their doing business, but the very fact that they're seeking to subvert the exercising of a constitutional right. I just don't see how that is acceptable in any way, how that should be legally acceptable. It's almost like saying, well, if you exercise your freedom of religion, if you go to church somewhere, we're not going to do business with you.
I worked with Chase Bank and Bank of America, on the personal side. I completely shut them down because they were blocking firearms transactions and purchases. You'd buy something at the local store and then find out later that they denied the charge, and now you got the store calling you for money, and you're what the hell's going on? This was going on during the Operation Operation Choke Point that was going on under Obama, which was a real thing, proved to be a real thing. And I worked with Chase. Chase was one of the banking vendors I had for one of the FFLs that I own, and as a veteran, Chase does really good by veterans. So I guess I'd kind of been allowed to proceed as a gun store owner because of the veteran status on my account. But when I got to where I needed higher level items from Chase, and one thing, and people will understand this, as a business, once you build your business and you build a reputation, you're able to get credit references. All right. So
right.
I did not need to borrow money from a bank or anything like that. I was moving a large sum of money every year through a Chase bank account. And I went to Chase and said, "Will you give me an evaluation that says my business is worth this much money? That way, when people come to me for a credit reference, if I want to sign on to another account, they say, oh, this guy's business has established credit. We don't need to make him pay as he goes. We can give him 30, 60, 90 days credit." Right. And it was just because we were moving such a large volume of stuff at one point that would have been beneficial for us. Okay, write the check at the end of the month rather than write the check every other day when a product comes in the mail. All right. I got on to, I mean, I got all the way through the Chase system to the number 2 guy in New York City, all the way through. And going back and forth with him, and he's telling me, no, we can't do this because you sell guns online. We don't sell guns online. There's no guns being sold online. Well, we can't because you sell to people under 18. We don't sell to people under 18. I don't know where you're hearing all this. That's all illegal. I would be in jail if I did any of that. And finally got him to admit, listen, you do guns, so we are never going to give. I don't care if you're 100% above board. You're involved with guns. We will never do that kind of business with you. And I told him right then, I said, well, then you call my local branch and have them have a check ready for me because I'm on the way down there to pull it out. Well, we could do, no, done. And that's what these banks have done. And that's what Texas is fighting for. Texas is fighting for those discriminatory acts against people that are exercising either their personal or professional Second Amendment rights. And Texas is doing that for you to make sure this doesn't happen to you.
Well, and what's funny is the number of people out there. And here's the thing: there's are obviously the wackadoos, the anti-gun wackadoos, who clearly they don't want guns to exist and they don't want people to do business with firearms retailers, right?
Right.
But most people are either, they either believe they have no place dealing with that or doing that, or at the very least they don't know that it's happening, that these entities or that these banks are doing this. And so it's important that when you shed light on the fact that this is happening, that the average person is going to say, yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense. But what happens is the mainstream media doesn't tell anybody that's going on. Most people have no idea. Like when I talk to the average person and tell them that this happens, they tell me, no, you're just a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's why I bring up the difference between Chase and Citi here, because Chase knew it was going on and purposely did it. Citi at one point knew it was going on and thought they had stopped it and realized they hadn't stopped it.
Right.
And this had all been exposed by the two sources I recall were Christopher Swainhart from Gun Stuff TV and then Dr. John Lott. They'd both done extensive research and stories about Operation Choke Point. And this is still the residual of that. There are still those banks out there that feel empowered to violate your Second Amendment rights.
Right. So it'd be a good idea to, if you're in a free state, I happen to not be in a free state, but if you're in a free state, then you need to stand up and make that known. And quite frankly, even if you're not in a free state, you need to let your elected officials know to call that sort of stuff out. Exactly right.
Speaking of calling things out, let's talk about InNOut Burger. Because InNOut Burger, if you've never had an InNOut Burger, get you a double animal style. Oh man, you get some good stuff there. InNOut Burger is just a really good fast food restaurant, clean fast food restaurant based out of California. They go as far east as Texas. There's nothing east of the Mississippi River. Well, we know that InNOut Burger has had some trouble in California, up there in the Bay Area, and as of I think it's this week, Craig, down in Los Angeles as well, where if you want to come in and eat inside their restaurant, you have to have a vaccination card, and they've charged the restaurants with having the responsibility for checking the vaccination cards. Well, the CEO, the owner there of InNOut Burger, Lindsay Snyder, she has said, "No, my employees will not be your vaccination police, and we'll close the restaurants down." So they ended up not having to close them down completely. They were able to do, drive-through only, so they don't have to bring nobody inside. So they're still operating somewhat, but she flat out told them, no, we're not doing that. Well, she's a very, very pro-conservative person. We know that she's donated many times before to the Republican Party, probably to the Republican Party Association there in California, and she's a Trump supporter as well. Well, this gets even better. We know 2 weeks ago, right, that the Florida CFO, that's an elected position here in Florida, that's Jimmy Patronis, reached out to her and said, we would like to offer you all that Florida has to come and relocate your headquarters or even bring InNOut Burgers to the state of Florida. Tax benefits, breaks, everything that you're having to deal with in California, you wouldn't have to deal with here. Well, I guess that went well because this week the conversation was had between Captain Florida himself, Governor Ron DeSantis, and Lindsay Snyder. And evidently, Craig, they hit it off pretty good. Now, I'm not going to say, be weird and romantic. The governor's a married man, and in fact, his wife has got breast cancer right now. They got a couple of young kids. But from a political and a government a standpoint, he wooed her pretty well to try to get her to bring her restaurant and her headquarters here to the point where she made the comments like, Craig, well, we are sourced locally with all of our vegetables and all of our beef. And the governor said, well, let me tell you about Florida cattle ranches. Well, let me tell you about Florida farms, and to the point where I believe she's going to be making a visit here rather soon to check these things out.
I probably should have entitled this InNOut Flirts with Florida.
Yeah. Yes.
InNOut Flirts with Florida. But, so here's the thing. And what I will tell you is InNOut is very, very into the local community in the Central Valley, which is in the Central Valley of California. The area in particular where they're at, Lower Central Valley, is actually very, very conservative, and they are quite mindful of the people with whom they do business. So the challenge for them is going to be, is their concern over whether or not, because they're going to put a serious risk on the folks that they do and they deal with there locally, and I think they want to make sure that they protect those business owners. But no, very conservative, has contributed to a number of different organizations. You said, the party of, they may have donated to the party, the California Republican Party. The California Republican Party, unfortunately, is not as conservative as most conservatives would like. In fact, the California Republican Assembly, our motto for our current campaign is join the Republican wing of the Republican Party.
There you go.
just so just so you know who the folks are. But no, it would really be, I would hate to see them leave California because we need strong conservative businesses and business owners in the state of California to help us to fight back. But I also, at the same time, definitely would not begrudge them going someplace that will definitely benefit them, benefit their business. Well, much more so than being in California, because, it's hard being a business owner in California.
Here's what I see happening. I see InNOut Burgers restaurants. And by the way, there are no franchise restaurants. They are all owned, and I believe there's 343 of them, if I recall, that they are all owned by corporate InNOut. So there is no franchise. I see InNOut Burger is coming to Florida. A couple locations around the state. They'll start with that. I see the Miss Snyder coming here and realizing that Florida has the same kind of things that California has to offer. She can support local cattlemen. She can support local farms, local produce, and use all of that here. So she'll have an East Coast supplier of the same thing she has on the West Coast. I see the headquarters for InNOut Burger leaving California.
I could definitely
see the headquarters leaving California because of the tax benefits and the laws and the breaks here, that she will be allowed to make more profit here, Craig. And when you make more profit, you have more money to give back as well.
I completely agree. Like I said, I wouldn't begrudge you leaving at all.
I don't see any InNOut Burgers leaving California. I don't see any InNOut Burgers leaving anywhere else. Everything that's there, I see staying there because, again, she wants to stay and help those communities. And the way she does that is by, just because she has a restaurant there doesn't mean she's helping people eat. All right. She's also helping your cattle farmers, your ranchers, and everything else, because everything's locally sourced. She's not going to give that up.
I will say this, and I do have one beef with InNOut Burger. Remember when they came out with the Let's Go Brandon cups?
Yes.
I specifically went to InNOut. Now, Mike, I have been on a mission trying to get a little bit more svelte. I'm trying to eat right and not eat super fatty foods. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm going to InNOut. I went to InNOut, and I got a double. I got a fry and I got a shake. And while I appreciate, Proverbs 3 and 5 on the bottom of the cup, I did not get a Let's Go Brandon cup. I was. I
thought you were going to say you went to see if it said Let's Go Brandon and you poured the shake on yourself.
No. No. If I had, I would have sued them. There you go. Because that sort of thing works. It works with McDonald's. Why not?
I froze my junk. Oh. Um, yeah, I
But
don't,
no,
I
I'm
don't know.
smart enough to know to lift it up and look underneath.
You just got to have a sunroof in the car. That's all, right? You can get it out
There
far
you go.
enough.
There you go.
Um,
So there you go. InNOut flirts with Florida.
there you go. There you go. I want to take a couple of moments. I know we don't normally do a little bit of international news, but I wanted to give you some lasting effects of the previous two administrations, and now how it's much like the current president's incontinence problem. It's landed in his lap. We have, if you recall, under President Obama, we had the mass migration movement of Arabs throughout Southwest Asia and Northern Africa, where you had Arabs trying to escape and they were heading to Europe. We all saw the stories about what was going on in Europe with, in England, in Germany, Italy, how they were dealing with the problems. Well, Poland decided to deal with that problem back then the same way they did today is the same way they did 6 years ago when this happened. Poland said, no, we're not letting anybody in. We are not allowing any Arab migrants to come in or Muslim migrants to come in. We're not doing that. We are a controlled population. That's how we're able to stay. That's how we came from 30 years ago being a communist regime and puppet nation to a free, independent nation here, because we control who we have within our borders. And they said we are not letting that element in. Well, now, remember that was Obama, correct? The president of Poland, his name is Andrzej Duda. He's a very conservative, pro-conservative person, and was a very good friend. And he's since won re-election. He was a good friend of the Trump administration, so they saw eye to eye. Poland took a lot of heat from the EU back then, Craig, because they weren't letting in these migrants. So just to understand the dynamic, Poland friends with Trump, EU mad at Poland, right? So here we go now, and we're into the Biden administration, and the Russians are helping send these migrants through Belarus, which is a border country to Poland. So there's some 15,000 people amassed at the Polish border in the forest between Belarus and Poland, and the Poles have put their military there and said they're not coming in. And Russia now feels a little more empowered to help push these migrants away from their borders to another country, because guess what? We have no relationship with Russia right now with the current president. So before, at least President Trump could go to Putin and say, don't do that. And Putin would say, okay. Now, they might mess with each other elsewhere, but because of that relationship they had, this was not an issue. So now we're going to come full circle, right? Now the EU is mad and saying, well, they shouldn't be pushing these migrants in. Now we agree. So now the EU is mad at Russia and at Belarus. And what's Belarus planning to do? Well, Belarus has the pipeline for the natural gases and the oils. And they said, well, we're going to shut off Southern Europe with this. And this is all because we have a president and a vice president that don't understand foreign relations. Remember, Craig, Republicans, strong foreign relations. Democrats, we're going to go around the world and embarrass ourselves. We're going to poop on the Pope. We're going to fart on the Queen. And we're going to try and speak French to the French with a bad French accent.
Poop on the Pope. Fart on the Queen.
That's the kind of foreign policy we got going on right now.
Wow. Well, first of all, we already know former he was National Security Advisor or CIA Director Gates.
Yes.
Didn't he say that Biden has been wrong on every major foreign policy decision he's ever been a part of?
Yes.
Well, I think he's living up to that right now.
Yes. Yeah.
I think his administration thus far has totally lived up to that. It's kind of sad to see Poland dealing with this, but you knew that one of the problems with the whole EU or the European Union was they wanted to get rid of borders. It was this whole goal once again to kind of push this idea of allowing them to push or allowing some countries to push all of their problems and everything into other countries. You look at even when it came to like COVID, a lot of countries are like, different countries had different lockdown policies, but as soon as you got into one country with the easiest lockdown policies, well, guess what? You were now into every other country in the EU.
Yes. Now, there's a couple of countries that have stayed. They're like partial members of the EU.
Right.
Poland is one of them. Austria is another one where they still use. Like part of it is they still in Poland they still use the zlotys. They still use their own money. They're not on that, but they have fair trade agreements now with all of the countries around them. But if you want to come in through Poland, you still have to show your passport. It's the same way you could drive through all of Europe now, but if you want to cut through Austria, you got to show your passport. Unless you're Bavarian. If you're Bavarian, from Poland, from Switzerland, or from Germany, then you're okay. And not Poland. I'm sorry, Austria.
Right. Well, Mike, here's the thing. When it comes to understanding what creates a country, language, border, and cultures, right? Language, border, cultures. If you do not
thanks
have
to the Russians, all of that
things,
stuff over there on that side, the Belarus, the Lithuania, that's all in flux. Poland has done a great job of 30 years of reestablishing exactly what you just said.
Right.
But it's still, you go down to Belarus, you go down to the Baltics, it's still a mess.
Yeah. Most definitely. But not nearly as big of a mess as our vice president's French accent.
This broad. Come on. What are we doing? Craig, it was a story earlier in the week that I saw, and it just made me decide, but when I saw this story today to say let's have it. Kamala's her approval rating is 10 points lower than Joe's right now. Okay. And he's nowhere.
How do you do that as vice president?
It's in all the comments, every time she does something, I see something like, oh, look, a new episode of Veep is on, so because she does the most ridiculous things. But we have now people are saying that the reason, and this is the last story I saw, the reason we have Joe continuing to do what he does, and we know he's getting up there. We know the dementia, the incontinence. We know those things are happening. The reason he's still president is because they're trying to figure out a way to not turn it over to her because she is a catastrophic failure. She is right on the border and may have already passed the type of vice president that Dan Quayle was. Okay, to give you kind of an idea of what an embarrassment this person has become. And now Dan Quayle was treated unfairly. We know that a couple of times, but she went over to the Pasteur Institute in Paris, I believe it was, and started to speak to the French. Well, Craig, I think you got the video. Let's just go to her demeaning manner that she speaks to people. Remember, like in the debates. Oh, Joe, I'm speaking now. Well, she just did the same to foreign dignitaries. She just talks down to them, and well, just watch the video.
With us in government, we campaign with the plan. Uppercase T, uppercase P, the plan. And then the environment is such that we're expected to defend the plan. Even when the first time we roll it out, there may be some glitches and it's time to reevaluate and then do it again.
All right, first of all, that sounded a lot more like German than French. Am I missing something?
Yeah, but it might be why they're upset because they kept hearing her saying "the plan," like maybe like the final plan. Maybe they're a little nervous what's going on there. Can you bring a still up of that video or just show the video for 1 second again?
Here, I'll bring the still up. What I'll do is let me do this. I will cut out the sound so that we can still kind of talk over it.
Okay, there we go.
Dun, dun, dun. Where's it at?
Again, this is the vice president over at the Pasteur Institute in France this week, doing her talking down thing like she always does, and talking with a horrible French accent. But there's one other thing I saw in the video here. Why is she dressed like Sean Connery? She's wearing the Sean Connery outfit. Is that's the gray jacket, the tweed with the black turtleneck. That's the Russian submarine captain's uniform right there. That's the Sean Connery uniform.
Nice. Well, by the way, I don't know if you do know that Sean Connery has passed away.
You're trying to tell me now she thinks she's Sean Connery? Is that
She
what's going
thinks
on?
she's the new Sean Connery.
She's
Evidently, she thinks
Sean
now that he's
Connery.
not around anymore, she gets to be the new Sean Connery.
Yeah, well, she's not even 0014. She couldn't. She's not even. He's twice the man she was. That not a man.
She's twice the man he is. What?
He's twice the woman she was, or something like that. I have no.
However, whatever is an insult to her is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what we're going for. We're going for the insult.
Whatever is an insult to her, that's where we're at. Anyway,
That's it.
all right, dude. All right, we're up against it right now, man. We need to get to our parting shot. Once again, I have to give bragging rights to Mike because Captain Florida has once again embarrassed Gavin Mussolini. Or at the very least, the mainstream media has demonstrated the bias that they have towards Mr. Mussolini, the dictator and tyrant that he is. Now, you know that back in August when Florida was going through a spike in COVID cases, Ron DeSantis just pointed out, he's like, no big deal. Look, we're going through a COVID season, right? And the mainstream media, the Washington Post, in fact, mocked him. But then Gavin Newsom just recently said the exact same thing. And what you got from mainstream media? Absolutely nothing. Right here, Washington Post. DeSantis blames Florida's surge on COVID season. That's misleading, experts say. That's the article that they wrote. And then, this is November 9th, so this was 2 days ago. Gavin Newsom. This is hard for me to say. California is now experiencing an increase. Well, we know why. There's a seasonality to COVID. And guess how much criticism he received for this one, Mike?
None.
Guess what the Washington Post had to say about his statement?
That he was probably correct.
Exactly, that he was probably correct. Just one more thing. Yep. That the mainstream media has demonstrated that they were wrong about, but number two, that they show a bias for, because they're not going to go back. The Washington Post is not going to go back and apologize to Mr. DeSantis, to Captain Florida, because that would be acknowledging that he was right.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Well.
All right, Mike. Hey, shout out to the sponsors.
Yep.
Before we
Thank
run.
you for joining us. That is thanks to Guerrilla Machining. Thanks to our good friend at Grid Defense, and thanks to the California Republican Assembly, which is the Republican wing of the California Republican Party.
Yes, it most definitely is. Thank you so much for that plug. Hey, folks, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Visit all of our sponsors. Let them know that we sent you. And we will see you tomorrow on Freedback Friday.
See you then.
See you then.